Well, we are at 6 minutes past the hour now. We may still have some folks trickle in over the next little bit, but I think in the interest of time, maybe we'll get started. So just a quick little bit of housekeeping. We'll try to keep, we have the webinar scheduled for 60 minutes this time because we have 3 presenters. We weren't able to get everybody able to present at the same time, so we're limited a little bit this time. But that said, if we could keep presentations to 10 or 15 minutes, that would be great. And then we'll leave some time at the end for questions. I don't have a problem running over. So if folks want to stay around and and we run a little bit over time in order to answer questions, I think that's totally fine. But just to give everyone a quick update on the timing, I'll try to keep track of that as we're going through as well. But with that, welcome everyone to our 5th episode of Let's Talk Ghost Gear. Focus this time on regional perspectives on ALDFG in Asia. Again, I think everybody knows me here, but for those who don't, or for those who are watching the recording, my name is Joel Baziuk. I'm the Associate Director for the GGGI. I'll be moderating the webinar today. So thanks for taking the time out of your day, evening to be here. And as mentioned in previous episodes, there really are 2 key purposes for these webinars. We want to make sure that our members have a chance to showcase their work to other members and to a larger audience via our YouTube channel. So this session is being recorded, and all future sessions will also be for that purpose. And we also just want to give everyone a chance to connect with one another, hopefully spark some interesting conversations and potential collaborative opportunities around ghost gear. So we have 3 speakers today, each of whom, as I said, will have about 10 to 15 minutes to present on their work. And then we'll have an open panel discussion where we encourage anyone in the audience to please ask questions. We'll take questions from those who raise their hands using the raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom window under the reactions tab. And we'll also be monitoring the chat for questions. But if you're able to, and if you'd like to, we'd love to hear your voices and see your faces. So feel free to come off mute and camera if you feel comfortable doing that, and just jumping in. So our panelists today will be Marcelo Hidalgo, the Director of Sustainability from the Fishing Industry Association of Papua New Guinea, and also of Seafood Matter. Dr. Sunwook Hong, President of RC of East Asia Network in the Republic of Korea, and Ning, the Chief Executive Officer of IndigoWaters Institute in Taiwan. So again, we have officially scheduled for 60 minutes today, given we have 3 presenters, but we'll try to keep to time. And if need be, it doesn't matter if we run over a little bit, and I'll try to keep everyone in the chat knowing when we need to move on to the next speaker. So I think that's enough from me now. Without further ado, Laura, if you could share your screen, we can pass to Marcelo and get underway.
All right, take it away, Marcelo.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to join this webinar series. My presentation is about an auditable tool based on a benchmark that has a main goal, the best practices for fisheries of the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. Next one, please. I will just share with you a small background why we decide to move into our auditable tool. Next one, please. One of the main players or drivers back in 2019 for this benchmark tool that was created already between 2020 and 2021 was the Marine Stewardship Council moving into some new requirements. Next one. Well, it's true, years ago was a challenge to try to certify the fish aggregating device fisheries or fishing. MSC was only one of the players, but behind that we have the Global Tuna Alliance, we have the Tuna NGOs, we also have the International Seafood Sustainability Foundation, and several other NGOs addressing or pushing for responsible management of fish aggregating device and the effect that this ghost gear may cause in reef and coastal. Thank you. Next one. Next one, please. One of the agreement of all this organization was about good practices for FATS. I am telling you, this is just partial justification. I will expand a little bit more after this. So they request best practices for FATS based on tracking, monitoring, reporting, and mitigating FATS in different fisheries. Next one, please. So at that time, I am talking about before 2020, there were no any fisheries certified for FAT because FATs are bad, are killing shark, turtles, everything. But however, there was one country already since 2014 that developed a FAT management plan that was working, was in place, but only in the zone, that was Papua New Guinea. From this FAT management plan was like a copy of the baseline for the rest of all these NGOs in several countries building up. And you can see all the requirements that the FAT management plan back in 2014 was developed by P&G. And if you do a comparison with all the best practices of FAT of this organization are similar. Next one, please. Supermarkets took the lead, sourcing only from Pull Online or for Pursainers Free School. They didn't want to have anything about any tuna coming from FAT. So now that perception has changed. There are good practices in place, and well, this is part of the solution we created in Papua New Guinea to demonstrate compliance and accountability. Next one, please. FAT's impact is only part of this benchmark tool called Marine Litter and Fishing Gear. It's a case study. We also integrate or create a benchmark about different problems in the fishery, including single-use plastic, any polymers, and garbage. Next one, please. The scope of this project, going to the core of this presentation, is applicable for the Papua New Guinea Fishing Industry Association head office, tuna fleets, and landing sites. When I say tuna fleet, I am talking about 86 tuna pursainers affected directly in reporting for this tool. Responsible personnel on board, crew on board, fishing company personnel, and operational at land people. Geographical area of this project was the east zone of Papua New Guinea and the archipelagic waters, fishing gear, pursainers, dressing fat, anchor fats, and the management system include marine litters, polymers and any type, single-use of plastic based on the EU directive list, and fishing gear, any type of gear used during the fishing trip. Out of the scope, we don't include microplastic, and we don't, even though we have some impact on that, and no include packing material. Next one. The proposal was to delineate, to create, to set up and develop an audit method, metrics, or KPI, key performance indicators, to assess the progress against the Global Goals Gear Initiative best practices and the seafood nether benchmark, including all these elements in only one tool. The aim was to have an impact to minimize the impact of all these marine debris that we can summarize in the reef, coastal communities, endangered, threatened, and protected species, and align with the MSC fishery standard requirement from the principle 2 as well. Next one. Why marine litter and fishing gear? Because with this benchmark, we don't reinvent the wheel. We don't try to create a new standard. No, we just want to create one solution based on all the best available. And we're complying at the same time with supermarket requirements. We are aligned with NGOs campaigns and regulators like authorities in the Pacific. And we provide a baseline for the FIA, for the Fishing Industry Association companies to measure the impact in the fishery. To enhance the market image, we have to recognize we enhance the market image with our fleet and our processors since 2020. Next. So this is a short history about this. In 2018, the FIA members signed a MOU with the central office to go for the MSC fishery certification. By 2019, we create the marine litter. No, we create the responsible sourcing policy that with 4 pillars: sustainability, traceability, crew welfare, and marine litter and fishing gear. Why marine litter and fishing gear separated? Because even MSC didn't have inside the scope. So we push as a 4 pillar. Between 2019 to 2021, we create a technical development group to develop and write this procedure you see here that are available on our website. If you go to www.fia/png.com, you can download every of these documents are public. Also, we create a technical working group with fishing companies representatives because they know what they are doing. They know the challenge, they know the practical, the hand-filled experience. Not happy with that, and with some experience as a standard setter in the Aquaculture Stewardship Council as science director, I decided to invite global stakeholders, and we created an external technical working group. You can see the names, maybe you recognize some of them: John Lansley, Mariana Mata, Hilario, Murua, Gala Moreno, Perry from GGGI as well, and Jocelyn. We wrote these documents and we shared with this network. We received more than 150 improvement, clarification, correction, and we make in one document a strong and robust benchmark. Again, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We just wanted to have one solution that is going to be auditable. Next, please. So in 2019, we did a gap analysis based on this desktop, and we developed the metrics and indicators to be followed up at field. Remember, COVID-19 arrived, so we have to wait a little bit after COVID. Then we will able to go to the field. Next one, please. The first one that was assessed was the PNG fat management plan. That was easy to do it. You can see the history. It's an old document and very strong. And something that I would like to remark is that our fishery, or my fishery client, the Papua New Guinea, the sets from 100%, 8% are coming from fat caught. 92% are caught in free school or unassociated. Next one. And here is the benchmark. So Laura, I will ask you to click quite often because this is the benchmark tool. Next, please. Here we go. In one policy, in one procedure, we put together multiple alignments, and we did it in this way. Yes, please click fast, Laura. We put together standards, private policies, NGOs, government and regulations, guidance, to be aligned fisheries and aquaculture and complying with marine litter and fishing. Next one, and keep just clicking. I will go fast. Blender, let's call a blender. We put together all these initiatives: NGO Tuna, Marpol, FAO, SDGs, Marking Gear, Go Ahead, GGGI, EU Directive. All of them have something in common. And we just put it together in one policy, one procedure, one auditable tool, one solution for a tuna fishery with 86 tuna per seniors. A benchmark process describe how was the methodology. Please go ahead. And we set up 7 principles with KPIs with 41 performance indicators for Papua New Guinea Fishing Industry Association with 1 annual report. Next one, please. Next. Yeah. Of course, we have to communicate, so we have meeting with the entire industry, crew members, and industry, operational and management of the every company to help us to multiply and enhance this, spread this tool. Next. 80% operational people, 55% management. About gender, men and women were fully involved in this implementation process. Next. And we request, as FIA office, every fishing company have to assign 1 person or a team to implement, follow up, and do internal audits. And FIA will do the second party audits and monitor together with the NFA, the National Fisheries Authority, set up internal procedures, adapt the complexity to every fishing company. The scope was, remember, the port, landing, how they collect, how they segregate and release, but also on board, how they take care. Exactly how the global goals, Guinea Initiative fishery-based practices is addressed. Next one, please. Well, it's summarizing part of the audit tool. It's a checklist in Excel. I didn't share here, but I am sharing the results. Looking at marine litter management plan, record book, fishing gear management plan as well in a record book on board, fishing marking that we cross-check with the National Fisheries Authority every time they register of fats, how we can prevent an impact by loss of abandoned fishing gear. Next. These are other chapters. We also audit prevention of pollution, how the fishing companies in due diligence prevent this. One of our challenge was to quantify the quality of garbage and marine litter. Some of them declared by units, other by kilos, other by pounds. So we have to work constantly to try to increase consistency across different 88 tuna processors. Go ahead, please. Next. And of course, the famous fats, also now under control and minimizing. We also are aligning and cooperating a lot with ISSF and with the SPC, the Secretary of Pacific Country. We are now into research together, the Papua New Guinea Fishing Association with this body. Next one, please. Next. Every year, the FIA PNG team do a report based on the second party audits. From the 86%, at least 20% of the vessels are audited on board. 2 officers, qualified auditors, go on board, go into the port, check logbooks, cross-check with NFA, and release this public report are on our website. You can go to the link and you can see on our website. You see the 7 principles. There is a different performance in 2021 against 2022. The formula to assess the performance is based on a factor that if the fleet or fishing company doesn't have a management system implemented or has not done training and awareness, will pull down all the performance of the rest of the principles. This is the aim is to push the company to increase training, awareness, and implement management system. Some of the members from 2022 didn't perform well because they were new, so they didn't do the entire due diligence, but we are expecting for 2023, this analysis will be much better. Next one, please. Next. Well, our this initiative in Papua New Guinea has crossed some borders. The WWF Coral Triangle requests us like a 1-day meeting, more or less 4 hours meeting, to learn how this marine debris they call is a good example for the Pacific. So they publish our initiative in the marine plastic pollution and its sources in the Coral Triangle. TV Terra X, that is like National Geographic from US. It is the same like TV Terra for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. They were in our fishery last year, and on 25th of August this year, they are going to show 1-hour documentary about FIA PNG sustainable fishing on fats, and GGGI is mentioned in that TV documentary. Beside that, with SPC, we have joined we have a joint research looking at fats. With WWF and ISSF also, we are involved in biodegradable non-entangled projects, with workshop in Galapagos, in PNG, and also in Micronesia. And we appear in the GGGI annual report. Next, please. Outcomes. Almost finishing my presentation. Well, this auditable tool to assess operation at sea and at port. Together, we have achieved to set up a robust due diligence process. We don't have a certification, but we rely on the National Fishery Authority to also oversee what we are doing. This audit tool is based on a benchmark. We recommend to not reinvent the wheel, but try to use what is available to implement in any fishery or aquaculture operation. We have, in our opinion, a solid metrics based on these KPIs, based on this benchmark tool. We are reporting on annual basis in a transparent manner, in accountable manner. The impact also has go a little bit further, and some of our fishing company members are doing. Beach cleaning has one of you were mentioning. Fravel, RD are doing #1. People are doing as well, and has a good influence in the tuna fishing industry in the region, in the Pacific. It's a scalable methodology, and now we want to implement in the lobster fishery, that is a small scale fishery, that they use less gear, but we are going to assess that. Next, please. Recommendation, we are cooperating with NFA observers and port controllers, depending on the fishery. We agree and cooperate also with the office and FIA fleet for accountability monitoring of FATs, continuous internal training, and also improve. The tool needs to be reviewed this year. There are a lot of development that have to be added. Next one, just to finish. Thank you very much. So I hope I made it in 10 minutes. Thanks.
Thanks, Marcelo. No, that timing was perfect. Thank you very much for the fantastic presentation. I'm sure we'll have some questions at the end, but we'll maybe move to the next presentation now, just to make sure that we have enough time. But thank you very much. I'm always been fascinated by that, and glad that you've had an opportunity to reach a bit of a wider audience with it. So thank you very much. Yeah, if Sunny, if you're ready, we would love to have you jump in.
Okay. The screen looks a little bit, it looks a little bit different from original version. Anyway, thank you, Chair Joel. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to share our experience with participants from different regions. I named my presentation today, Journey of Ocean, Tackling Discarded Fishing Gears. Next slide, please. Although it was named Ocean's Journey, it actually started from my personal journey. This is because I have been aware of the seriousness of ALDFG since 2001, 23 years ago, long before the creation of our Sea of East Asia Network Ocean in 2009. We are UNEP certified nonprofit research institute. Ocean's mission is to contribute to solving the Asia-Pacific marine debris problem based on expertise and citizen science. Its vision is to become a platform for the Asia-Pacific network. Next slide, please. In Korea, social interest in the marine environment has increased since the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries was established in 1996. One of these was to begin collecting marine debris that had accumulated in the sea over the country's history. This photo shows the Minister of Oceans and Fisheries personally participating in a project to recover contaminated seabed debris in 2000. He later became president. The public was greatly shocked by the dark, polluted appearance of the sea, so starting in the late 1990s, the government began investing big money to remove marine debris from the sea, mainly discarded fishing gear. This program has never been discontinued to date. This means that despite the government's efforts for more than 20 years, fishing gears that has been abandoned continues to enter the sea without anyone knowing. Next slide, please. I first encountered this problem while participating in a marine debris research project 23 years ago. As part of the project, International Coastal Cleanup was introduced to Korea for the first time. And at the time, ICC was the only one in the world producing data that can be compared across countries. After holding the first year's ICC event and comparing data, we learned that Korea had an unusually high rate of ocean waterway activity. Its rate was 27% in Korea, but only 5% in the world. Next slide, please. After several years of survey and monitoring, a new type of shoreline debris monitoring program began in 2008, which my colleague and I designed as a governmental program. It continued for 16 years. But unfortunately, this monitoring program was suddenly stopped this year. Anyway, looking at the monitoring data and further research on damage to wildlife, by marine debris, safety of ships, research on estimation of annual input, my team learned that the most serious debris in Korea are EPS buoy, expanded polystyrene buoys for aquaculture, fishing ropes, fishing nets, fishing traps, and recreational fishing lines and hooks. Next slide, please. So EPS buoys were the most serious and have been widely used for seaweed and oyster farming. But there were no statistics on the use, amount, or durability, and the government's measures at the time were end-of-pipe approach only. A complete ban on the use of as many as 40 million EPS buoys per year was not realistic, and finding an alternative that would be widely accepted by fishermen was very difficult. So Ocean held 4 policy development workshops, and various viable alternatives and potential actions were discovered from diverse sectors. And some of them, which were mainly from fishermen, were reflected as government policies. New policy to exchange buoys as durable ones, educating fishermen, and supporting fishermen's volunteer retrieval program resulted in the significant reduction of EPS buoy to buoy in our monitoring data afterwards. Next slide, please. Ocean was actually, frankly, relatively passive about abandoned fishing gears other than EPS buoys. This is because the government spent most of its budget and focused its policies on dealing with discarded fishing gears. However, in 2020, when professional exploration divers Team Booster and Ocean collected and analyzed the cases of damage to living organisms under the sea, we confirmed that discarded fishing gear is still causing damage in all seas, and that the government's retrieval-oriented policy has not been very effective. One of the good things is that the government has significantly strengthened laws and fishing gear production and sales reporting system, and deposit system were enforced last year. Another good thing is that Ocean has been implementing a government project to improve retrieval programs since last year. Next slide, please. Ocean launched a new initiative 2 years ago. What it called it is the 10-to-1 campaign. It is Ocean's research project and also public campaign to focus 10 types of debris that always occupy a high proportion or have a serious impact in our data and evidence. 5 items are related from activities of sea-based sources. Actually, eel trap, one of them, was included because Dr. Carl from Subrider Foundation suggested me to be interested in this item because it affects the marine mammal in Hawaiian areas. Its goal is to reduce the number of marine debris items per 100 meters by 1/10 of the current level. Next slide, please. Here is another initiative. Ocean has launched a new 3-dimensional digital citizen science program in 2001. The Ocean Lights is a program that allows citizen scientists to produce data representing pollution status and report them on our own big data platform. We will launch the platform's international version this year. Ocean Lights consist of 4 parts: Sky, Aqua, Terra, and Urban Nights. Sky Nights use drone to monitor coastal debris from the sky. Terranites use smartphones to monitor standing stock along the coastline. Aquanites use undersea camera to monitor the sunken debris affecting ecosystem and marine animals. Urbanites will use smartphone application to monitor hotspots and waterways in the city using AI and deep learning technology. We ocean guides data collection, analyze them, and provide this information to local governments and authorities for marine debris management and anyone else who are interested in this issue. Next slide, please. Reducing fishing gears is a very difficult task, but I think it will be more effective if we develop policies and activities to prevent the sources of generation based on data and evidence. Our journey will lead to a 90% of debris reduction. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sunny, for that wonderful presentation. I myself have quite a few questions. I'm hoping there will be some others as well at the end. Always wonderful to hear about your work. And again, we'll maybe save the questions until the end to make sure that we have enough time for the presentations. So thank you very much again. And Ning, if you're ready, then we'd love to have your presentation next.
Sure. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. This is Ning from IndigoWaters. First of all, I would like to thank Joel for your invitation that I can share our works with you. Next, please. So I will briefly introduce IndigoWaters. So we are an environmental consulting company. We mainly focus on marine debris survey. And in the past few years, we have also attend some international conference, and we work with international partners such as Ocean, Surfrider, and others. And we also work with scientists to share our findings in scientific journals. Next. So I would like to share some photos of Taiwan's coastline with you. This is Penghu, one of the outlying islands in Taiwan. So you can see the styrofoam mountains and fishing nets tangled together, and also some fish trays, hard plastic buoys on the beach. Next. This is another beach, and you can see still some styrofoam buoys, some bamboo rafts, and some hard plastic buoys and some debris together. Next, please. And this is another one. Now you can see more closely. So they are more the hard plastic buoys on our coastline. So when we see this kind of things, we are curious, where are these buoys, where are these marine debris come from? Are they from domestic use or are they from other countries? Next. Next. As you know, East Asia is a very busy fishing ground. This is a map from the Global Fishing Watch. So you can see a lot of dense yellow dots around Japan, Korea, along China's coastline, and around Taiwan. This map only shows the wild capture fisheries. In addition to this capture fishery, this region also the main producers for aquaculture. Japan, Korea, and China are all the top producers for oyster aquaculture. And this industry also create a lot of marine debris. Next. So we see this kind of debris on around our coastline. This is from the sea surface. It's just look like a small island of bamboo rafts and some styrofoam on it. And when we try to pull it up from the sea, you can see actually it's entangled with a lot of fishing buoys and styrofoams, things like that. So what are these from? Next. This is actually from the oyster aquaculture. So you can see the the picture on the right-hand side, this is the structure for oyster aquaculture. On the top is a bamboo raft, and the fishermen will tie the styrofoam buoys or alternative buoys under the bamboo raft. Then they use the oyster cord, the lines, to line up the oyster under the raft, and this create a lot of debris when the current or the weather is not good. And it is estimated that there are 24,000 rafts, and fishermen use 120 to 200,000 buoys per year. But each year they also lost a lot of buoys. So I think that's why we have so many styrofoam buoys on our coastline. Next. And from our survey in 2023, so we see styrofoam, fishing net, and buoys are the top 3 items on our coastline by weight. So if we add it up, we can see nearly 70% of marine litter on our coastline is ALDFG, and some are domestic and some are from the East Asia region. Next. So since we have so many styrofoam buoys on our coastline, our government plans to phase out the styrofoam buoys in 3 years. So they would use the extended polypropylene EPP buoy or the more durable HDPE buoy to replace the styrofoam. But there is still some problem. The EPP buoy still break easily, and the HDPE buoy is more expensive and is heavier, so fishermen don't like to use it. So I think there is still a long way to go. Next. The second measures we take is the gillnet marking schemes. So since 2021, the Fisheries Agency announced the gill marking measures. So fishermen can choose to write or do spray painting or tag on their gill net. And they are also required to report if they lose their gill net at sea. They can report to the fishery radio or Coast Guard. Next. And here you can see the detail of the gill net marking. So fishermen has to put their vessel ID on both ends of their gill net. And in between, every 50 meters, they have to at least mark 1 buoy on their gill nets. Next. And because to deploy new measures is not easy, so our government also hold 36 information sessions and workshops to raise fishermen's awareness. And they also create some Facebook posts and posters to communicate with the public. And they also distribute this text for fishermen to tie it on their gill nets. Next. And in addition to these measures, there is also a joint inspection task force. This task force is comprised by the Fisheries Agency, local government, Coast Guard, NGO, and fishermen associations. So when a fishing boat departs from the port, this task force will inspect the gill net to see if the fisherman has marked their gear. Next. And another way to prevent the fishing gears become ALDFG is increase the incentive to recycle the fishing nets. So our government has set the fishing net storage areas in 84 fishing ports around Taiwan, almost cover the whole Taiwan. So the fishermen can put their old nets in this area and contact with the recyclers to buy the fishing nets. Next. And our government also published a handbook teaching fishermen how to disassemble their fishing net. As you know, a fishing net is composed of different parts of different material. So if they disassemble the lines, the lead, the nets, then the recyclers will pay a higher price to buy the fishing nets. So they not only publish this handbook, they also hold some workshops to teach fishermen or the fishing village how to disassemble these fishing nets. Next. And as you know, this recycled fishing net will become the material for the outdoor outfit or the functional clothes. And the market is growing in the past few years. Next. So we see there is a global trend of upcycling, and the need from the market is growing. So the fishing net collected at the distant, like at the other end on the earth, on Chile, the material will ship to Vietnam for melt and make pellet. Then the pellet goes to Taiwan to make yarn fiber, then make into the products, then go to the global market. So when we see these needs from the market is growing, we hope this kind of need from the industry will decrease the impact of ALDFG. Next. Now I will talk about the remediation measures. Next. So in the past, we worked with a local NGO to publish 2 guidebooks of ALDFG. So we compile the capture, aquaculture, and trap, this kind of different fishing gears, and we interview fishermen to understand where the source, the fishing method, and what's the size and color to raise public's awareness of this ALDFG. Next. From the government side, our government has a program similar to Fishing for Litter. So they are 4,600 fishing vessels join us eco-fleet. So these fishermen are encouraged to bring back their litters at sea. Next. And there are also some underwater cleanup. Next. So today I share what Taiwan has done to tackle the ALDFG. On the prevention measures, we have gillnet marking. We increase the incentive to recycle fishing nets, and we raise fishermen's awareness. On remediation measures, we have identified the source of ALDFG, and there are removal and retrieval actions. And we look forward that there are more regional and international cooperations in the future. That's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ning. That was wonderful. I'm always been very excited about the work that's going on with the IndigoWaters Institute. It's terrific stuff. What's happening in Taiwan, what's happening in South Korea, what's happening in Papua New Guinea. It's all fabulous stuff. I do have a few questions, but before I get into them, I wanted to first of all open it up to the floor and see, were there any questions from the audience here today that anyone wanted to jump in with before you have to hear more of my voice? And obviously, if there are questions between panelists too, that's totally fine. Nope, yeah, Carl, please.
I have a question for Sunny. With your Ocean Night program, do you have a app or some way of recording this data on a cell phone while they're on the beach, or how does the data brought into the program?
Yes, we developed, thank you very much for the question. We developed a smartphone application, so anyone can use by Android phone or iPhone is available, but the English version is not yet. So we will launch it, English version this year.
Thank you.
Great to know. And Sunny, as a quick follow-up to that, and also, sorry, Cynthia, if you wanted to jump in, please go. I'm not going to forget.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking those are such pictures of the debris on the beach. And so just on a personal human note, I wanted to know, do you have enough volunteers to clean the beach? What do the beaches look like today? Or are you forever behind with the problem? Are you able to clean that debris?
Are you asking to me or Ning?
No, to Ing
Okay.
from Taiwan.
To me, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So in Taiwan, the government will send the cleaning squad to clean up the beach. And also there are a lot of beach cleanup NGOs and schools, communities. They will do voluntary work to clean up the beach. But the photos I just shared, it's at the islands. So some islands is like, it's far from main islands. So if there is no public budget, it's difficult to clean it.
Yes, we have that problem here in Hawaii too, on the more remote islands.
Yeah.
Similar story in many other places around the world too. As a quick follow-up to Carl's question, for Sunny and also for Ning, the data that you collect, is that something that I think we've had these conversations before, but we just haven't followed up with them? Is that something that can be shared with the GGGI's data portal? Is that something you might be open to?
Yes, our data platform is open to everybody. After launching English version, we will share it with you. Yeah, GGGI.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. It's a region that in the portal is not well represented, but I know that there are wonderful data sets like yours out there. So if we can get access to that at some point, that would be fantastic. And same question to you, Ning.
The coastal survey we are doing now is the project by the Ministry of Environment. So we have to check with them to see if we can share the data with the third party.
Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, okay, wonderful. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right. Well, if there are any, please feel free to jump in at any time. I do have a question for everyone, and so anyone who would like to jump in and answer it, please do. In your opinion, is ALDFG and Ghost Gear, is it receiving enough attention in the Asia Pacific region as a whole, or is it still relatively emerging in the marine debris conversation? And I asked this to sort of contextualize it a little bit. I know Sunny, the Republic of Korea has been doing work on this issue for 20 plus years. But in the region itself, if we're talking about the Asia Pacific region, is this something that is getting enough attention in your opinion, or is there still more work to be done there?
Okay, from my experiences, ALDFG problem is serious in Korea and Taiwan, China. Actually, we started this activity. We didn't know much about the ALDFG problem around the world. But after years goes by, I found Vietnamese coastal debris monitoring data says fishing gears are one of the top items. So I think the issue has not been very well researched in Asian Pacific, East Asian Pacific areas. Another example of Indonesian partner, our partner is International Waste Platform. We developed a project with government funds from 2019 to 2021. We applied our monitoring methodology to Labuan Bajo, which is a small island of middle of the Indonesian country. after the monitoring, we found the second most frequently found item was the plastic bags, which is used for ice for fishermen. Our partners never recognized that problem, but we found this is very unique in this area. So after the survey, the International Waste Platform started to campaign for fishermen behavior change based our conversation and discussion. So maybe this issue have not well developed in this area. We need more investigation and studies. That's it from my side.
Okay, great. And again, not at all unique to the region, but it's those of you who are on the ground in the front line that have a much better understanding than we do, and we sort of learn through osmosis through you. So that's great. Marcelo, I see you have your hand raised, so please go ahead.
Thank you, US. Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Sumi and Ning. Great presentation, inspiring to do something like that in PNG. Well, regarding your question, Joel, I think the topic needs to be raised or communicate much more in the Pacific. I was attending the Tuna Commission meeting, and I think one of the main topics in the area because of reef is ghost gear. No many organizations were there. My suggestion would be like maybe GGGI or Ocean Conservancy can register a HAZOC server in the Tuna Commission and attend that. There were so many NGOs about crew welfare, about environmental, but no one regarding marine debris or ghost gear. In PNG has been difficult to implement this, at least for the seiner industry now is getting track, and they are taking their own initiative proactively, educating local communities doing the beach cleaning. It's a pity I didn't show photos, but it's quite inspiring to see that. But then, well, we try to replicate this in FSM, the Federal State of Micronesia. I think, well, our colleagues are not here, but Trimarine is doing a great job in Solomon Islands as well, raising this. But definitely, it's needed in the Pacific, 26 countries, more outreach regarding this topic. I think you are in contact with Tuvalu. We can list contact between GGGI and the government of PNG. Now they are really pro into these topics. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ning, do you have anything to add to that, or does that sort of summarize the situation from your perspective as well?
Yeah, I can add some points. Yeah, I agree with Sunny and Marcelo. I think this issue still needs to be communicated with the public and also with the fish authorities. And I think we really need like regional conversation to tackle this, because it's difficult to identify the source, and even we know where it comes from, to have to adapt, and like practical action is also challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that was going to be one of my next questions is there a regional approach that's happening right now? I know that, I mean, your organizations and your governments in many cases are doing excellent work that doesn't get enough recognition, to be perfectly clear, or to be perfectly frank. But is there a regional approach that is underway right now, or is that sort of a gap that needs to be filled? I'm sort of hearing the latter, and wondering if there might be a way for GGGI to kind of assist in helping to build that in some way, or at least encourage the development of something like that. We've done similar things in other regions of the world, and just wondering if that might be a conversation worth having into the future.
Yeah, I think if GGGI can lead something, that would be great. Currently, I think Sunny is doing great to invite partners from Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam to have some conversation together. And beside it, we also participate some APEC meetings, but those meetings are more like conference or to share knowledge, but we still don't see like actual movement from the like just sharing. Yeah, so if there is something we can do together, I think that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation about that. Because again, it would be you folks on the ground who are experiencing this and would probably be driving something like that forward. But if there's a way for us to, I don't know, help make some of those connections, we've found that this approach works in other parts of the world where even if you, Laura and I just got back from a couple of workshops in the East Coast of the US in Maine, and just bringing everyone together into the same room, to talk specifically, not necessarily in a conference environment, but more in a one-on-one workshop environment, has led to some pretty interesting outcomes. So maybe we can think about doing something like that in the future, jointly together. I think that would be great. No problem, Manny. Thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate that. Does anyone else have any other questions? I do have a couple more, but again, I don't want to dominate the conversation here. Carl, yes, please go ahead.
I find it's coming from an American approach or a Western European approach, etc. Looking at all of the press and everything that's going on now is all about, it's not even about microplastics anymore, it's about nanoplastics. And in all of this information, although you do see some mention about plastics being poisoned and stuff, they have totally forgotten about the megaplastics. So the worldwide literature, what you see on the web, is not really looking at this. And the only megaplastics that gets out there is the Ocean Cleanup Group. And they are working internationally, but they are now leaving the ocean and going to the rivers to try to do it. So, Joel, I find it's disconcerting, it's depressing to see that people are more concerned about the little particle things because they can see the impact on human health directly, whereas what we're doing is affecting the whole ecosystem and human health. And the point, I made the calculation earlier, but a 1,000 kilogram net that I pull off is, I forget, 430 million nanoparticles that will be out there in the ocean. And so we're swimming against the tide right at the moment. And I think that's where all of us, we're in Asia, but everywhere, we have to get the human focus back on not polluting the ocean and also not using plastic at all, getting away from plastic, per se.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that one thing we need to remember is that we shouldn't prioritize necessarily one thing over another. There seems to be, as you said, Carl, these almost like the topic of the day or the week or the year or generation or whatever it's going to be. And the reality is that you kind of need to pull on all of those levers if you want to have the major change. Like, sure, you need to deal with the nanoplastic side of things and trying to understand what that's about, but you also need to deal with the megaplastic and everything in between. As much as I'm wearing a GGGI logo, we work exclusively on fishing gear. Fishing gear is a major problem in the ocean, but it's also not the only one, right? Like, we need to work on everything. And I think sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees a lot of the time because people are working on the next sort of trending topic rather than that sort of holistic approach, is that all of these things need to be addressed in tandem. And then very often one causes the other. But Sunny, please jump in.
I would like to add some comment on microplastic thing. When it comes to the micropollution in Korea, the major source is styrofoam buoys and fishing ropes. We monitor the microplastic, macroplastic, major plastic along the coastline with government as one of the governmental monitoring program. So it is very different from other countries' result. Many papers say the origin of the microplastics are the cloth-based fabric microfibers. But in our case, microfibers come from fishing ropes. So if we see the exact evidence or data, we can easily develop the mitigation policy with a more specific, more scientific basis. That's it.
Also, a really good point there is that, and this is another reason why we have to address this regionally and locally, because the causes of a lot of these things and the realities are just different. You can look at it in a global context, which we try to do as well, but unless you're drilling down into the local situation, then you're not going to find, you know, what's actually going to work in any particular given geography. Is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Very complicated, but yeah, are there any other questions? I'm mindful that we are a few minutes over time. I am happy to keep going if others are, but I want to be mindful and respectful of other people's time as well, because I know everyone has very busy schedules.
Oh, Joe.
All right. Sunny, I had another question for you, and this has to do with recreational fishing items that were identified as a significant source of debris. This is something that we as a Triple GI have identified as a major global issue as well, but it hasn't received a lot of attention. You know, we've looked at things from the commercial fisheries, wild capture side of things. We've looked at things from the aquaculture side of things more recently, and we see this as a major gap that we'd like to try to fill. And I just wonder if you could speak a little bit more about that in the context of your work. Is this a major issue, and are there regulations around recreational fishing in Korea?
This is a lesser known, but it's a very serious one. The number of the recreation fishing gears debris is not very high, but the impact is very serious. So recently, we published a paper about that. It will be very helpful for understanding. Maybe it will be possible in other countries as well. And yeah, and we got a lot of recreational anglers' opinion survey. So we will go forward to tackle this issue too.
That's really good to know. I'll probably be reaching out to you about that, Sunny, to see if we can have, if that paper is accessible, we would love to have a look at it.
Yeah, I will send you.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you. Because I know that this is definitely a growing issue that is not getting a lot of attention. And as you said, even if it's a lesser amount than what's happening in the commercial fisheries, there's a lot of angling and a lot of recreational fishing happening around the world. And the impacts can be quite significant. Are there any other questions from anyone? Ning, I did have one more for you as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
On the gillnet marking, I know this is something that Taiwan's been working on for a while. I've been talking to Yi-Sin Chu for quite some time about this, and it's great to see that it's been implemented. What has been the response from fishers on the gillnet marking regulations? And so as a follow-up question as well, when they're required to report gear loss, where does that data go? And is it for just gillnets that gear loss reporting is required? Is it for all gear types?
Okay, yeah. So last year we had some chance to interview some gillnet, some small-scale fishermen, and from there, of course, they feel like troublesome to the new measures. Yeah, but because our fisheries agency work with a local NGO, and they prepare like the tax for the fishermen. So the work fishermen has to do is to tie the tax to to their nets. So actually it's not like a lot of work for fishermen to do. And the NGO also have some like workshop or like some teaching class for these fishermen. So fishermen recognize there is a new measures going on, but they still feel troublesome. And for the where are the report goes, mainly goes to fisheries agency, but I think it's a closed data set. I'm not sure if they are willing to share it or open it, but I know they calculate, they do some statistic. And so when fishermen reports, they have to report the vessel name and the reason why they lost and the location, like the longitude and latitude or the rough geology zone where they lost their gears. And for now, it's only gillnet. But another authorities, the Ocean Conservation Administration, they are like kind of eager to push fisheries agency to make the marking to other types of fishing gears. But because fishery is not their authority, so there is some conflict. Anyway, so besides gillnet, the fisheries agency, they want to push the crab pot marking this year. So the content of the measure is still in negotiation, but I look forward to the new step from now.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's good to hear and understandable that data set is closed. The Canadian government also collects similar data as mandatory gear loss reporting. They do share that data, obviously without fisher information and without vessel information. We don't want that, but they do share the bulk of it with Triple GIS portal. So there's precedent for that. Of course, obviously, that's not something that we can jump right to necessarily. But I'm glad that at least it's going somewhere, because I know that there's a lot of places in the world where gear loss reporting might be mandatory, but what's done with that data is still a big question mark. It might go to a warehouse and be put in a shoebox that goes into a warehouse somewhere, but it's not actually anything done with it yet. So glad to know that it's at least going somewhere to understand what the local situation is. That's terrific. Fantastic. Are there any other closing thoughts or questions from anyone? Carl, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because we have my friends here, one of the things that I just discovered was with our eel trap study through Asia and on the west coast of America, is having collected probably 12,000 eel traps in all the nations ourselves and looked at all of these things. We just discovered recently that some of the cylinder traps have the names of the boats or the names of the fishermen that in Japan. So Ning was very helpful with this, and this was the first where we found that they were marking them, and you ask why would they do it? Well, because this gear is lost, it's not discarded, and it's expensive, so they would like to get it back. But the reason that I bring this up was I just recently have been talking to hagfish fishermen on the west coast of the United States, and there they use barrels and not the cylinders, big barrels, which cost $100 or more. They're more expensive. And what they told me was, of course we scratch our boat name into all of this gear, because we know it's going to wash up someplace and we hope to get it back. And so one of the things in my initial proposal was to try to promote the idea that the gear should be tagged, should be labeled or something like this. But in fact, there are parts where people are doing this already. And I think a part of this is because it's lost gear. And it's not the stuff that's thrown overboard by the large-scale commercial fishermen. So I think, that the whole idea of tagging, whether it's the gill nets and the crab pots, we're having a big problem in America that the ropes on the crab pots are entangling the whales and killing them. There have been 2 in the last month that washed ashore dead with ropes wrapped around it. So America is making a big effort to make sure that everything is tagged. And we, sitting in the middle of the ocean, we are getting the tags, we're getting the floats and things that have been lost and entangle the whales on our coast. And so we are in a program where all of the different groups, when we collect a rope or a buoy that has a tag on it, that we get that information and we find out what state it came from and we report back to that state. So in this way, we're trying to help out in managing, the lost gear and trying to come up with ideas on who's responsible for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that it's another sort of benefit of gear marking in situations like that. And when you have a more robust program, like the Canadian program, where they have depots set up, and Ning, I think it's similar in Taiwan, as you were mentioning, they have the sort of the storage areas where if those gears are marked, then they can be returned to the fishers. And that's something that, at least I can speak from the Canadian context, has been something that is a benefit to them. I mean, they get that gear back, then they don't need to go buy new gear, especially if it's in fishable condition. I think there's something similar in the East Coast of the United States in some places, although they don't have the dedicated storage facilities yet at this point. But again, just there's a benefit to some of the marking requirements here, so that it helps ease some of the pushback that you might get from fishers wanting to not have another regulation thrown at them. If there's a direct benefit to them that they might get their gear back, then that's obviously a boon. Fantastic. Well, I'm aware that we are 20 minutes over time, which is great. I really appreciate everyone's enthusiasm and the questions. Thank you so much, Sunny and Ning, for being here, and Marcelo as well. I know he had to leave a little bit early because he's joining us from a conference, but I really appreciate your time. I'd love to continue these conversations again, Sunny and Ning, offline, and great to see so many of you here today. It's been a while, and hopefully we can see each other again in May. That would be fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I guess it is for most of you. Evening, if in the case of Carl and Laura and myself and Cynthia, and take very good care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.